Man enjoys a stable life with his girlfriend, planning a future and choosing a ring for a proposal. One night, he receives an intimate photo she sent to another man, sparking betrayal. My life with her has settled into a calm I've always wanted. We've been together 2 years, and it's serious, stable, exactly what I pictured. I wake up each day thinking, this is it, and she stirs beside me, saying morning with a sleepy smile. I reply, good one, and we start talking about our plans. The day feels solid, and I add, another good one ahead. We've built something real, and I feel it in every moment we share. We live together like a unit. She suggests, let's make dinner tonight. And I say, I'm in. We chop vegetables, and she teases, don't mess it up, making me laugh. I'll try, I say, and we sit to eat, chatting about work. How was your day? I ask, and she says, okay, yours? I nod, same old, and we ease into the evening. The rhythm of us feels right, and I think, this is our life, the future taking shape. We talk about what's next. After dinner, we sit close, and she asks, what about getting a dog someday? I chuckle, maybe next year, and she pushes, and a house? I nod, I'm working on it. We toss around trip ideas, and I say, where do you want to go? She grins, somewhere warm, and I agree, let's plan it. The conversation flows, and I mutter, long term, the stability of foundation we're building on. I've picked out a ring. One day I tell her, I'll be back soon, and head to a jeweler. I look at the options and say, this one, choosing a simple band. The clerk nods, nice choice, and I buy it thinking, she'll love this. Back home, she asks, where'd you go? And I say, just ran errand, keeping it light. The secret sits with me, and I add, something big coming, the proposal on my mind. I think about asking her. That night, we walk outside, and she says, this city feels like ours. I take her hand. Could be forever, and she smiles, I hope so. I think, where should I do it? And picture a quiet spot. I say, nice night, and she agrees, really nice. The moment feels close, and I mutter, soon, the ring a quiet promise. I imagine her reaction and add, right step, the plan forming. The days roll on. She says, breakfast together? And I nod, let's do it. We eat, and I ask, sleep well? She says, yeah, you? I smile, good, my mind on the proposal. At work, I handle a meeting, and a colleague says, good work, and I reply, thanks. Home, she hugs me, love this, and I say, me too, the ring of thought. The days feel full, and I think, she's ready, the future solid. She brings up more plans. One evening, she says, what if we had kids? I laugh, someday maybe, and she adds, a big family? I nod, if that's what you want. We discuss it, and I say, we'll see, the idea's growing. The talk feels natural, and I mutter, she's in the ring and next move. I picture our life and add, perfect timing, the stability strong. I rehearse the proposal. Late night, I hold the ring box and say to myself, will you marry me? The words feel solid, and I think, her yes. I imagine the scene and mutter, perfect moment, the plan set. I picture her face and add, she'll say it, the confidence building. The night is quiet, and I think, ready, the future frame we're stepping into. The next day, I watch her. She asks good day, and I say, yeah, you? She smiles great, and I think, soon. At work, I close a deal, and the boss says, nice job, lifting me. Home, she says, you seem happy. I reply, thinking of us. The ring close. The day feels right, and I mutter, perfect frame, the proposal a heartbeat away. The evening started like any other, the kind of night we'd fallen into with ease. I sat on the couch with my laptop, typing up a work report, the keys clicking softly. She was in the other room, probably sketching or reading, and I called out, how's it going? She replied, good, just relaxing, her voice carrying through the wall. I nodded to myself, thinking, normal night, and kept working. The room was quiet, and I muttered, another steady day. The stability still holding. We'd been chatting earlier. Over dinner, she'd said, long day at work? And I'd answered, yeah, but manageable. She'd smiled, glad you're home, and we'd talk about a movie to watch later. Something funny? I'd suggested, and she'd agreed, sounds perfect. Now, with the dishes cleared, I focused on my screen, saying, almost done here. the routine comforting. I thought, life's good, the future plans lingering in my mind. Then the message hit. My phone buzzed on the table, and I glanced at it. A notification from her. I opened it, expecting a quick update, but froze. An intimate photo filled the screen, her pose suggestive, with the caption, "Your turn." I stared, the air leaving my lungs, and thought, what the hell? My hands shook, and I muttered, not for me. The shock a punch. The laptop hummed ignored, and I sat there, stunned, the night shifting. I replayed it. The image burned into my mind. Definitely her, but the tone, the words, didn't fit us. I said to myself, she sent this to someone else. The realization sinking. I checked the time, sent just minutes ago, and thought, she's in there now. My heart raced, and I muttered, this can't be right. The stability cracking. The room felt smaller, and I stared at the phone. The message of betrayal. I stayed silent. She walked in, holding a book, and said, almost done. I looked up, forcing a nod. Yeah, nearly. She smiled. Good. Let's watch that movie, and sat nearby, oblivious. I said, sure, my voice tight, and thought, act normal. She flipped a page, asking, what's that report? And I replied, just work stuff. The lie bitter. I muttered under my breath, not now. The shock of storm inside. The turmoil built. I kept typing, the keys loud now, and thought, who's it for? Anger flared, mixed with hurt, and I said to myself, she's cheating? Curiosity crept in. Part of me wanted to know, and I muttered, need to figure this out. She glanced over, you okay? And I forced a smile, yeah, just focused. The screen blurred, and I thought, pretend, the pain hidden. I tested her. Busy day. I asked, watching her closely. She said, not really, just work. And I nodded, anyone new there? She shrugged, same team, missing my probe. I thought, lying, and muttered, keep going, the suspicion growing. She leaned back, saying movie time, and I agreed. Soon, the distance between us widening in my mind. The night dragged. We started the movie, the sound low, and she laughed at the joke, but I barely heard. I thought, who saw that photo? The hurt stung, and I muttered, betrayed, the anger simmering. She said, this part's funny, and I nodded. Yeah, my voice flat. The screen flickered, and I watched her, thinking, acting normal, the curiosity battling the pain. I held it in. Later, she yawned bedtime, and I said, in a bit, needing space. She kissed my cheek, night, and left unaware. I sat the phone heavy and thought, what now? The anger flared again, and I muttered, can't confront yet. The shock await. The room was silent, and I added, need a plan. The stability shattered. The next morning, I replayed it. She made coffee, saying, sleep okay? And I nodded, yeah, the lie easy. I thought, still processing, and muttered, who's the other guy? She chatted, movie was fun, and I said, glad you liked it. The distance growing, the day loomed, and I thought, figure this out. The betrayal of quiet fire. The night after that message, I sat frozen on the couch, the laptop forgotten, the screen dim. My phone lay beside me, the image and caption, your turn, smirking face, still burning in my mind. I didn't reply, couldn't, and thought, what do I say? The room felt heavy, and I muttered, not touching that, the shock locking me in place. She was still in the other room, unaware, and I sat there, the silence deafening, my heart pounding. She came in soon after. The door creaked, and she walked in with a book, saying, ready for that movie? Her voice was light and normal, and I looked up, forcing a nod. Yeah, sure. She smiled. Good. I'll grab snacks, and headed to the kitchen, humming softly. I thought, acting like nothing, and muttered, can't believe this. The betrayal simmering. The TV remote sat untouched, and I stared at it, the pretense starting. I played along. She returned with a bowl of chips, saying, here we go, and sat beside me. I said, looks good. My voice tightened. She laughed. Classic choice. We started the movie, the sound low, and she leaned in. This part's funny. Pointing at the screen, I nodded. Yeah, but my mind raced, thinking, she sent that to someone. The chips crunched, and I muttered under my breath, keep it together. The anger building. The storm inside grew. As the movie played, I felt a mix of emotions. Betrayal sharpest, then anger, a hot pulse. How could she? I thought, the pain cutting deep. Curiosity crept in too, and I wondered, Who's it for? The screen blurred and I muttered, need to know. The hurdle wait. She shifted, saying comfy, and I forced a smile. Yeah, the pretense of mask. I tested her again. During a quiet scene, I asked, busy day? Watching her face. She said, not really, just work. And I nodded, same here. I thought lying and muttered, play it cool, the suspicion growing. She added, missed this. And I said, me too, the words hollow. The movie droned, and I thought, she's hiding something. The curiosity a pull. The betrayal stung. Later, she paused the film, saying break, and I agreed, sure. She stretched, long day, and I said, yeah, my mind on a photo. I thought she betrayed me, the anger flaring, and muttered, can't unsee it. She smiled, back in a sec, and left oblivious. The room was still, and I added, hurts more than I thought. The pain raw. Curiosity took hold. I picked up my phone, staring at the message, and thought, who's the guy? The timestamp showed it set mid-evening, and I muttered, she was here then. The idea of her with someone else fueled the anger, and I said to myself, need answers. The curiosity of fire. She returned, saying, ready? And I nodded, yeah, the mask firm. I hit it well. We resumed the movie, and she said, this scene's great. Laughing. I forced a chuckle. True, but thought, focus on her. The betrayal gnawed, and I muttered, stay calm. The pain a constant. She leaned closer. You okay? And I said, just tired. The lie easy. The screen flickered, and I added, gotta figure this out. The storm inside a secret. The night dragged on. After the movie, she yawned, bedtime, and I said, in a bit. She kissed my cheek, night, and went off unaware. I sat, the phone in hand, and thought, can't confront yet. The anger surged, and I muttered, betrayed, the hurt and not. The room darkened, and I added, curiosity's killing me. The freeze a shield. The next morning, it lingered. She made coffee, saying, sleep okay? And I nodded, yeah. I thought, still processing, and muttered, who is he? She chatted, movie was fun, and I said, glad you liked it. The distance growing. The day loomed, and I thought, gotta watch her. The betrayal, anger, pain, and curiosity a tangled mess. The days after that message turned into a quiet hunt, my mind buzzing with questions I couldn't voice. I sat at the table, phone in hand, staring at the screen where a photo and caption still lingered in my memory. I thought, gotta find out, and open her social media, the app loading slowly. She was in the living room, humming, and I muttered, not yet, the suspicion driving me. The room felt tense, and I started scrolling, the investigation beginning. I checked her profiles. Her latest post showed work events, smiling with colleagues, and I thought, who's close? I clicked on comments, reading names, and muttered, nothing obvious. She called out, what's for dinner? And I said, thinking about it, keeping my tone steady. I scrolled deeper, looking for patterns, and thought, someone's there. The betrayal quiet fuel. The screen glowed, and I added, need more. The search on. I moved to messengers. Later, I grabbed her laptop while she showered, the water running, and opened her chat app. I thought, hope she didn't lock it, and scanned her messages. Most were work-related, but one named Jake stood out with late-night replies. I muttered, who's this? And read a casual. See you tomorrow. She came back, saying almost done, and I nodded. Yeah, the clue noted. Her behavior shifted. That evening, we ate, and I watched her closely. She said long day, and I asked, anything new at work? She shrugged. Same stuff, avoiding my eyes. I thought, hiding something, and muttered, play along, the observation key. She added, met with the team, and I said, oh, anyone new? She said, no, just Jake, her tone off. I nodded. Got the name clicking. I dug further. The next day, I checked her phone while she slept, the screen unlocking easily. I thought, risky, and found Jake's number, recent calls late at night. I muttered confirmed, and scrolled texts, vague but flirty. She stirred, saying morning, and I said, hey, pocketing the phone. I thought, she's with him. The evidence growing. I recalled her words. She'd mentioned Jake before, saying, we're in a fight at work, and I'd said, tough luck. Now I thought, lie, and muttered, checking that. At work, I asked a colleague, know a Jake from her office? He said, Yeah, quiet guy. And I nodded, thanks, the piece is fitting. I thought, coworker she hated, the irony bitter. The clues piled up. That night, I watched her move, noticing small things. Quick phone checks, late replies. She said tired, and I asked, busy day? She nodded, yeah, meetings, and I thought, with him? I muttered, stay quiet. The investigation silent. She yawned, bad, and I said, soon. The observation ongoing. I cross-checked. The next morning, I searched Jake online, find his profile, work photos with her, smiling. I thought, not a fight, and muttered, proof. She made coffee, saying, sleep okay? And I said, yeah, my mind racing. I thought, she's close to him. The betrayal clear. The day loomed, and I added, need to watch, the search deepening. Her action confirmed it. That afternoon, she took a call, stepping away, and I heard, later, Jake, her voice low. I thought, caught it, and muttered, no confrontation, the plan firm. She returned, saying work stuff, and I said, busy, watching her. I thought he's the one, the coworker revelation a sting. The night closed with tension. We sat, and she said, movie? I agreed, sure, but my mind was on Jake. I thought she lied about the fight, and muttered, building a case, the investigation steady. She leaned in comfy, and I said, yeah, the pretense holding. The screen played, and I added, gotta know more, the quiet hunt ongoing. The discovery of Jake changed everything, but I decided against a fight. Too messy, too quick. I sat at the table, thinking, this needs a plan, the anger simmering beneath a calm surface. She was in the living room, flipping through a book, and I called out, want tea? She said, sure, thanks. Her voice easy. I thought, play it smart, and muttered, chess, not checkers, the strategy forming. The room felt charged, but I kept it steady. I shifted my approach. That evening, I brought her tea, saying, here you go, and she smiled, you're sweet. I sat close, asking, long day? And she nodded, yeah, work was busy. I thought, with Jake, but said, rest now, my tone warm. She relaxed, saying, feels good, and I nodded, good. The care of mask. I muttered under my breath. Gain her trust, the plan unfolding. I became more attentive. The next day, I cooked breakfast, saying, made your favorite. And she grinned, you didn't have to. I said, wanted to, and watched her eat, thinking, she's dropping her guard. She added, this is nice, and I replied, more to come, the strategy working. I thought, she thinks it's fine, and muttered, keep going, the silence a tool. Her guard lowered. That afternoon, she said, thanks for this, and I said, anything for you? My voice steady. She leaned in, you're in a good mood, and I smiled, just happy. I thought, she's buying it, and muttered, perfect, the plan deepening. She chatted about work, quiet day, and I said, good to hear, noting no Jake mention. The room felt lighter, and I added, she's relaxed. I planned my move. Late night, I thought, time to act, and decided on the ring, not for love, but leverage. I told her, going out tomorrow, and she said, okay, have fun. I thought, jeweler trip, and muttered, part of the game, the strategy clear. She yawned, bad, and I said, soon, the plan a secret. The next day, I visited the store. I said to the clerk, need a ring, and picked a simple band, thinking, not for her. The clerk asked special occasion, and I said, something like that, the lie smooth. I paid, the box small, and thought, this ends it, the ring a trap. Back home, she asked, good trip? And I said, yeah, the secret safe. I played the part. That evening, I said, let's talk later, and she nodded, sure. I thought, set the stage, and muttered, she's clueless. The care continuing. She said, you're so good to me. And I replied, always, the mask firm. I watched her smile, thinks it's a proposal, the strategy tight. The days built tension. I brought her coffee, saying here, and she said, thanks, love this. I thought, she's comfortable, and muttered, almost ready, the plan nearing. She added, you're the best, and I said, glad you think so. The care cover. I pictured the ring, thinking, not what she expects, the silence a weapon. I observed her slip. One night, she took a call, whispering, Jake later, and hung up fast. I thought, caught you, and said, work? She nodded, yeah, and I smiled. Take your time, the trap's set. I muttered, she's in deep, and added, let her think she's safe, the strategy unfolding. The ring waited. The next morning, I held the box, thinking, not for love. She said, good day, and I said, yeah, you? She smiled great, and I thought, soon. I muttered, chess move, the plan a checkmate. The day passed, and I watched her, saying, relax tonight, the care of final step. The plan was set, and I knew the night had to be perfect, not for love, but for the move I'd been building toward. I looked at her across the living room, where she was flipping through a magazine, and said, how about dinner out tonight? She looked up, smiling. Really? Where? I kept my tone light. Fancy place downtown, special night. She grinned. Sounds amazing, and I thought, she's buying it. The strategy clicking. I muttered, here we go. The ring box in my pocket a silent wait. She got excited. That afternoon, she said, what should I wear? And I replied, something nice, make it special. She laughed. You're up to something, and I smiled, maybe, keeping it vague. I thought, she thinks proposal, and muttered, let her dream, the setup unfolding. She hummed as she got ready, saying this is fun, and I nodded, glad you think so, the confidence growing. We headed out. The restaurant loomed, lights warm, and she said, this is gorgeous, her eyes wide. I opened the door, reserved us a spot, and she squeezed my hand. You're sweet. I thought, perfect stage, and muttered, stay smooth, the plan firm. The waiter led us a corner table, and she said, best seat, her excitement clear. I smiled, only the best. The night starting, the evening flowed. We ordered, and she said, what's good here? I suggested, try the pasta, and she agreed, sounds perfect. The food arrived, and she tasted it. Delicious, while I said, told you, my voice steady. I thought, she's relaxed, and muttered, keep her there, the strategy holding. She added, this feels like a dream, and I nodded, meant to, the confidence strong. She hinted at more. Over dessert, she said, you're extra nice tonight, and I laughed, just for you. She leaned in, is this it? And I raised an eyebrow, what do you mean? She blushed, and I thought, she expects a ring, muttering, not yet. I said, enjoy the moment, and she smiled, I am, the setup deepening. I played the part. The music played softly, and she said, dance? I stood, let's do it, and we moved the floor. She rested her head on my shoulder, saying, perfect, and I replied, always with you, the lie smooth. I thought, she's all in, and muttered, timing's key, the plan nearing. The room watched, and I added, stay confident, the night a trap. The conversation stayed light. She said, remember our first date? And I nodded, yeah, simple but good. She laughed, look at us now. And I said, better every day, my tone warm. I thought, she's hooked, and muttered, almost there, the strategy tight. She added, this is special, and I agreed, meant it to be, the confidence a shield. The moment built. After dessert, she said, best night ever, and I smiled, glad you think so. I thought, time to shift, and muttered, ready, the ring a prop. She sipped her wine, saying, you're amazing, and I replied, you too, the act flawless. The room buzzed, and I added, she set, the setup complete. I kept her guessing. Later, she said, what's next? And I teased surprise, keeping her on edge. She giggled, you're killing me, and I laughed, good thing. I thought, she expects a question, and muttered, not what she thinks, the plan a checkmate. The night wound down, and I said, home soon, the confidence unshaken. The drive back was quiet. She leaned against me, saying, tonight was magic, and I said, worth it, my voice steady. I thought, she's oblivious, and muttered, next move, the ring a silent threat. She yawned, tired but happy, and I nodded, me too, the setup a success. The car hummed. I added, ready for the reveal, the night a prelude. The restaurant night had built to this, the air thick with her expectations as we finished dessert. I watched her sip her wine, her eyes sparkling, and thought, time to end this. She leaned forward, saying this night's perfect, and I smiled, glad you think so. I reached into my pocket, feeling the ring box, and muttered, here goes, the plan at its peak. The room buzzed around us, and I stood, The moment charged. I set the stage. She looked up curious and said, "What's this?" I said, "Something special," my voice steady, and dropped to one knee. The table nearby hushed, eyes turning, and she gasped, "Oh my God," her hands covering her mouth. I thought, she thinks it's real, and muttered, "Not what you expect," the confidence a shield. The waiter paused, watching, and I held the box, the trap ready. I changed the script. Instead of opening it, I pulled out my phone, the screen glowing, and said, "Maybe we should send this to the right guy first?" I showed her the message, her photo, the "Your Turn" smirking face caption. Held it up for her to see. Her face drained, and she stammered, "W what?" The room went silent, and I thought, got her. The reveal is shock. I muttered, "Checkmate." The anger controlled. She froze. Her eyes widened, and she said, "Where did you—" but stopped, her voice breaking. I kept the phone steady, saying, "Found it that night," my tone cold. She glanced around, people staring, and whispered, "Not here," her hand shaking. I thought, too late, and muttered, "Let them see," the betrayal exposed. The waiter stepped back, unsure, and I added, "Truth time." The crowd reacted. A woman at the next table gasped, "Oh no," and a man muttered, "Drama." She tried to speak, "It's not," but faltered, her words lost. I said, "Explain it then," my voice firm, and she looked down, silent. I thought, she can't, and muttered, caught red-handed, the room a witness. The manager approached, saying, "Everything okay?" And I nodded, "Just settling something." Her shock deepened. She reached for my hand, saying, "Please, let's talk." But I pulled back, "Not now." Her eyes filled, and she whispered, "I didn't mean," but stopped, the lie obvious. I thought, Jake's behind this, and muttered, "She's done." The ring box a prop. The table shook as she shifted, and I added, "Face it." The reveal a blow. I held my ground. She said, "This isn't what it looks." But I cut in, "Looks clear to me." The phone stayed up, the message stark, and she covered her face. "Stop." I thought, no hiding, and muttered, "Let her squirm," the strategy paying off. A couple nearby whispered, "What's happening?" And I ignored them, focused. I added, "You sent it." The proof undeniable. The silence grew. She sat, head down, and said nothing, the weight of the moment crushing her. I stood, pocketing the phone, and said, "We're done here." She looked up. "Wait." But I turned, the ring box still in hand. I thought, walk away, and muttered, "Game over," the reveal complete. The room watched, and I added, "Her move now," the night a turning point. The aftermath began. As I headed out, she called, "Don't go," her voice desperate, but I kept walking. I thought, she's exposed, and muttered, "No turning back." The anger a quiet fire. The door swung open, cool air hitting, and she stayed, frozen. I added, "Let her deal," the reveal a public break. The street was quiet, and I thought, next step, the plan shifting. The next day, it lingered. At home, I sat, the ring box on the table, and thought, used it right. She hadn't called yet, and I muttered, "She's processing," the shock still fresh. I pictured her face and added, speechless for once, the strategy of victory. The room was empty, and I thought, move forward, the reveal a line drawn. The restaurant door swung shut behind me. The cool air a sharp contrast to the heat of that moment. I left her there, the ring box on the table, her face pale with shame, her perfect facade crumbling. I thought, done with that, and walked away, the street quiet under my steps. She called after me, "Wait." But I kept going, muttering, "Let her sit in it." The break final. The night felt heavy, and I added, "Her mess now," the anger a quiet burn. The truth spread. The next day, a coworker, Tom, cornered me at work, saying, "Heard about last night. What happened?" I shrugged. She showed her colors, and he whistled, "Rough?" I thought, words out, and muttered, "Fast too," the reveal rippling. He added, "People are talking," and I nodded, "Let them," the shame hers. The office buzz, and I added, "Not my problem," the distance growing. Friends caught on. That evening, a buddy, Mark, called, "What's this I hear about a scene?" I said, "She sent something she shouldn't," and he said, "Damn, man." I thought, they know, and muttered, "Good." The truth a release. He asked, "You okay?" And I replied, "Getting there," the support steady. The phone rang again, another friend, and I said, "Yeah, it's over." The word spreading. She reached out. My phone buzzed with text, "Please talk." And I stared, thinking, not a chance. I deleted it, muttering, "No reply." The resolve firm. She called next, her voice breaking, "I'm sorry." And I let it go to voicemail, thinking, save it. The screen lit up again. Another message. It was a mistake. And I blocked her, muttering, "Done." The pleas ignored. The rumors grew. At work, a colleague said, "Heard she's a mess." And I nodded, "Figures." I thought, her reputation's shot, and muttered, "Fair play." The aftermath unfolding. Another friend texted, "Jake's name's out too." And I replied, "Good." The coworker exposed. The office gossip hummed, and I added, "Let it burn." The shame a public scar. Her calls persisted. The next morning, my phone vibrated with a voicemail, "Please, let's fix this." And I deleted it, thinking, no fixing. She texted, "I need you." And I ignored it, muttering, "Not happening." The silence a wall. A friend stopped by, "Still quiet?" And I said, "Yeah." Cutting her off, the resolve strong. The day dragged, and I added, "She's desperate." The pleas a nuisance. The circle widened. That afternoon, a neighbor asked, "Trouble with her?" And I said, "Old news," keeping it short. I thought, everyone knows, and muttered, "Let them talk." The truth inescapable. A coworker emailed, "Heard the story, wild." And I replied, "Yeah, over now." The aftermath a wave. The street felt different, and I added, "Her shame, not mine." The break clear. She begged more. That night, another call, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to hurt you." And I silenced it, thinking, too late. A text followed, "Jake's gone, it's just me." And I deleted it, muttering, "Doesn't matter." The resolve iron. A friend texted, "She's trying hard." And I said, ignoring it, the silence a shield. The room was quiet, and I added, "No going back." The pleas fading. The fallout settled. The next day, a colleague said, "She's not at work." And I shrugged, her choice. I thought, hiding now, and muttered, "Good riddance." The aftermath a lesson. A friend called, "Holding up?" And I said, "Yeah, moving on." The support a lift. The phone stayed silent, and I added, "She's alone." The shame her burden. The night closed with peace. I sat, the ring box gone, and thought, left it with her. She hadn't tried again, and I muttered, finally quiet. The break complete. A friend texted, "You good?" And I replied, "Better." The distance firm. The room felt mine, and I added, her loss. The aftermath a new start. The day after leaving her, I knew it was time to break clean. No looking back. I packed a bag, shoving clothes into it, and thought, new start. She hadn't called since the restaurant, and I muttered, "Good riddance." The silence a relief. I grabbed my keys, saying to myself, "Out of here," and left the apartment, the door clicking shut. The street felt open, and I added, fresh air, the move decisive. I cleared the past. At a friend's place, I logged into social media, scrolling her profile one last time. I thought, done with this, and deleted our photos, the screen refreshing. I blocked her, muttering, no trace, the cut sharp. Mark stopped by, saying, "Tough call." And I nodded, had to. I deleted old messages, thinking, clean slate, and added, no regrets, the purge complete. I threw out memories. Back at the apartment to grab more, I found a scarf she'd left and tossed it, saying, gone. I saw a sketchbook, her work, and thought, not mine. Throwing it out too, I muttered, clear it all. The items hitting the trash. Tom called, moving fast, and I said, yeah, cutting ties. The resolve firm. The place emptied, and I added, her stuff stays, the break total. I started fresh. The next day, I found a small rental, the space bare, and said, mine now. I unpacked, setting up a desk, and thought, bill from here. A neighbor nodded, new face, and I said, yeah, just moved. The start simple. I muttered, new life, and added, step one, the move a foundation. The room felt light, and I thought, moving on, the past fading. I worked on myself. That evening, I hit the gym, the weights clanking, and thought, get stronger. A guy spotted me, saying, good lift, and I replied, thanks. The effort real, I muttered, for me, and added, better every day. The focus inward. Home, I read, saying to myself, grow. The self-work steady. The night was quiet, and I thought, healing, the cut clean. I met new people. The next week, I joined a group at a cafe. A woman saying, "First time?" I nodded. "Yeah, new here." She smiled, "Welcome," and we talked, easy and light. I thought, safe step, and muttered, "Open up." The connection tentative. A friend texted, "Out there?" And I said, "Trying." The social life restarting. The coffee warmed me, and I added, "New faces, the future bright." Her other faded. Tom mentioned, "Heard Jake's quiet work," and I said, "Figures." I thought, "He's out," and muttered, "Good." The coworker gone. Mark called, "Word is he dump her," and I laughed, "Karma." I added, "She's alone." The betrayal's cost clear. The office buzzed, and I thought, he ran. The cut complete for her. She stayed isolated. A friend said, "She's offline a lot," and I nodded, expected. I thought, regrets hitting, and muttered, "Her burden." Her social media lingered, posts old, and I said to myself, "Trails there, the shame public." The rental felt mine, and I added, "Not my problem." The distance firm. The day passed, and I thought, she stuck, the online mark hers. I kept building. That night, I cooked, saying, "First meal here," the pan sizzling. A neighbor waved, "Smells good," and I smiled, "Thanks." I thought, settling in, and muttered, "My space." The life new. A text from a cafe friend, "Again soon?" And I said, "Yeah." The connection's growing. The room glowed, and I added, "Forward." The cut of success. The next day, I reflected. I sat with a book, thinking, she's history. Her pleas had stopped, and I muttered, "Finally." The silence golden. Tom asked, "Better?" And I said, "Much." The support real. The rental was quiet, and I added, "Clean break." The past a lesson. The mirror showed me, and I thought, stronger. The cut complete. Months slipped by, and I felt myself shifting into someone new, the weight of her betrayal fading into a distant memory. I woke in my rental, the morning light soft, and thought, different man now. I stretched, saying to myself, stronger, and started the day, the calm returning. The room was mine. I muttered, back to me, the journey clear. A neighbor waved morning, and I nodded, yeah, the life steady. I found my rhythm. At work, I led a meeting, and Tom said, "Solid job, boosting me." I replied, "Thanks," and thought, got this again. Home, I cooked, saying, "Dinner for one," the routine solid. Mark called, "Holding up?" And I said, "Better every day," the support real. I muttered, my pace, and added, healing, the self-respect growing. The evening was quiet, and I thought, on track, the past a lesson. I grew confident. The next week, I met the cafe woman again, and she said, "Good to see you." I smiled, "You too." And we talked, easy and light. I thought, safe ground, and muttered, "Open but cautious," the connection growing. She laughed, "You're funny," and I said, "Trying, the steps small." A text from friend, "Out more?" And I replied, "Yeah, slowly, the new life taking shape." Time softened the edges. One afternoon, I hit the gym, and a guy said, "Strong lift," and I nodded, working on it. I thought, better me, and muttered, for myself, the effort paying off. Home, I read, saying, "Learn more, the growth steady." Tom texted, looking good. And I said, "Thanks," feeling it, the calmest shield. The day ended, and I added, respecting me, the past distant. I stayed in control. The next month, the cafe woman invited me for coffee, saying, "Join us?" I agreed, sure, and met new faces. I thought, new circle, and muttered, my choice, the social life expanding. She said, "You fit here," and I laughed, maybe, the caution firm. Mark called, "Social again?" And I said, "Taking it easy, the balance right." The night was warm, and I added, my terms, the victory clear. The final moment came. One evening, I sat with the original photo, her message, the betrayal, and stared. I said, "Old me," the image faded. I thought, let it go, and deleted it, the screen clearing. I muttered, "No revenge," and stood, facing the mirror. My reflection was steady, and I added, victory in leaving, the respect to win. The room was silent, and I thought, done, the cut complete. I reflected on it. The next day I cooked, saying, fresh start, the pan sizzling. A neighbor asked, happy? And I smiled, getting there. I thought, no hate, and muttered, just peace, the lesson learned. Tom said, strong move, and I replied, had to, the calm firm. The kitchen was mine, and I added, my life, the past gone. The day flowed. I walked, the air clear, and met the cafe woman, saying, coffee again? She nodded, love to, and I thought, slow and sure. A friend texted, good step, and I said, yeah, my way, the connection's growing. The park was lively, and I muttered, free, the respect of foundation. Home, I read, and added, clear view, the journey mine, the night closed with strength. I sat, the photo gone, and thought, she's history. The mirror showed me, and I said, chose me, the reflection solid. Mark texted, night off? And I replied, yeah, chilling, the closure real. The rental glowed, and I added, no revenge, just me, the victory a promise. The next day, someone said better, and I grinned, much, the path clear.